Theater is a form of connection and communication, all centered around the art of collaboration. From the community playhouse and educational institution to the many regional theaters, on Broadway, and in the corporate entertainment world, including cruise ships and industrial events, collaboration is at the heart of every show, every production. Collaboration is the blending of art and science, of creativity and the production process. It is the dance that happens when artists, technicians, designers, producers, musicians, marketers, and a wide variety of passionate individuals bring their talents together to develop a singular experience. Projects with Jason is one such collaboration seeking to inspire, educate, connect, and entertain through a series of unique, multifaceted experiences which seek to explore the wonderful spirit that is generated when professionals of all backgrounds and experiences intersect with rising theater students and educators, bringing together working professionals and talented students in a crucible of collaboration that happens when you put people together in a room and charge them to create something. The results are very special. This series of works is designed to enrich and inspire students, educators, artists, and all others as we look to connect, be entertained, and grow as artists and human beings.
I'm Jason Daunter. Join me and the Projects with Jason team as we welcome a playwright, musician, actor, humanitarian, theater founder, and a household American name. He's Jeff Daniels. Tonight, Mr. Daniels is joined by Guy Sanville, the artistic director of the Purple Rose Theater located in Chelsea, Michigan, celebrating its 39th year. Student performances, questions from educators, and you, the audience, make up this one-of-a-kind experience with this veteran of the stage and screen. Let's do this. Artists in Conversation. Hey everybody, I am Jason Daunter and welcome to Artists in Conversation. This is the show where we talk to artists one-on-one and you get to ask your questions. We get to hear from them. We have student performances, comments from them. Tonight we've got educator questions. It's sort of, we shape it to the guest that's on the show. And tonight we have the amazing Jeff Daniels. So a couple things right off the bat, make sure if you're not following us on YouTube, go right now. There's a button, subscribe, ring the little bell, hit the little bell thing, and it'll tell you when we have shows and stuff. Also tonight, you've got the opportunity to submit some questions. If you have questions for Guy Sanville or Jeff Daniels, right over there in the comment section, and later we may pull your question and get to ask it. Follow us at projectwithjason.com or on all social media, same thing. I can also tell you tonight, if you're watching in real time, that we have confirmed Aaron Sorkin as a guest on Artists in Conversation. So there's a tie-in to Mr. Daniels being on tonight and being able to announce Mr. Sorkin. You can also go back if you've missed any show and check him out on the YouTube channel. That all being said, I am thrilled tonight to have Jeff Daniels here. I had the good fortune of my personal connection with Jeff is that we spent about 2 years together from the first lab of To Kill a Mockingbird on Broadway, where only about 10 people, I think, had heard the script before we all gathered in a room and opened the script and heard the words that Aaron Sorkin had taken from Harper Lee's novel, To Kill a Mockingbird, made his own in this new American play. And it was the moment that I will remember for the rest of my life. The script was so amazing and what everybody was bringing to it. And then we did developmental labs for like the next year, getting ready for Broadway. And then Jeff was in the show, never missed a performance in a year. I wasn't there the entire year, and I'm sure we'll talk about that because I did leave early. But it was amazing. And again, I've talked about the real professionals that I've gotten the privilege in this career to work with. he's the top of the list. There's a work ethic. They set the tone. They tell everybody else in the building how to do it. And so I hope that everybody out there tonight takes something from that. And again, I always say each week, if you hear names you don't know, write them down, Google them, because these are names that need to be spoken in our industry. Legends that just we can't let the legacy, wear out. So anyway, that being said, he and I are going to talk about his amazing career. Guy Sanville is here because Jeff has been, I did some research and it looks like over 80 films. Literally this morning, I'm flipping the channels and Pleasantville was on, and I did not remember Jeff was in Pleasantville. So I mean, these amazing films on stage. He then decided he was going to start his own theater company in Michigan, and it's celebrating its 39th season. So we're going to talk about that. He's a musician, just blows your mind. These artists that just can do so many things and continue to rebuild and reshape ourselves if we need to, and find new things to challenge ourselves with. So without further ado, let's get the party started. Please welcome my friend, the amazing Jeff Daniels.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
I'm excited you're here. You know that.
This is fun. I like this.
We'll see if you like it.
Dressing room at Mockingbird. It's going to be great.
That's what I said. I said that. It's funny you said that because I said I wanted it to be just like the dressing room at Mockingbird, where I would grill you with questions and we would just chit chat because that's what people want to know. They want that side. And is he as nice as I want to think he is? And I'm like, well, maybe not a two-show day, but get him on a Tuesday night and he's in a pretty good mood.
Tuesdays, yeah.
Let's launch right in with you're basically in the town you grew up in, right? Chelsea, Michigan is sort of where you grew up and was home to you. That's where you live now, correct?
Correct. I grew up in Chelsea and went to high school here. And I went to Central Michigan University for 3 years, and long story, got a break so that I could go to New York and join an off-Broadway theater company instead of my senior year of college. And at 21 years old, that's what I did. And then 10 years after New York had been going, and I had 3 or 4 movies, and Kathleen, I got married. She's from this town.
Yeah.
And we had a 2-year-old boy, and we just decided to move home. And we did that in 1986, and it was kind of, not many people were doing it then. But we wanted to live where we could raise the kids, and we knew how to raise the kids. We didn't know how to do that in Hollywood, and New York was getting expensive. So that's what we did.
So in those initial days, it's also Mother's Day weekend. I forgot to say that. And you were very close with your parents. Your parents were very strong influence.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, I'm very close to you, down the road. Yeah.
And your parents, and so were you athletic and then you found theater, or was it always theater? I know you did musicals in high school, but how did you find that theater outlet at an early age?
Well, we were a real small town, 5,000 people, 2 stoplights, public high school. And so if you came through choir and you could carry a tune and stay in the same key at the front of the song as you were in the end of it, if you were in the same key, you could do a musical.
Yeah.
And if you played football and basketball, baseball like I did, that's okay. As soon as practice is over, head to the auditorium because you're playing Fagin and Oliver. Right. And so you did everything. And then we had a teacher who was the choir teacher, Diane Elroy, and she would grab like 10 kids that weren't necessarily athletes, or they were in the AV club, or they didn't fit in, and she would, and these were the kids with the imaginations, you know. They weren't the jocks, they weren't the athletes, and so all of a sudden there were like 8 of us, and even though I was a sports guy, I loved doing this, and there were about 8 of us that over the next 3 or 4 summers would do 2 musicals a summer in this town. And it was like, summer stock for me. And I got to do everything. I got to do Harold Hill, Fagin, Tevye, for God's sake. Tevye. On and on and on and on and on. So it was Cornelius Hackle and Hella. She let me do, I learned on my feet, which is the best place to learn.
So were you in any theater classes in high school, or was all just the practical doing the shows and learning that side of it?
No, it was all practical. There was no drama class. It was there was choir, and then you were in the musical.
Right. So then you do the senior year, you get plucked from college, and you're launched into Circle Rep, correct? You get put in the Circle Rep in New York, which that was a big deal.
Off Broadway, it was a huge break for me.
Yeah.
It was the break for me because I was really a homeboy, and even after a year there, I wanted to quit and come home. And my mom, I remember my dad and mom were on the phone, and my dad ran a lumber company here, and mom was the housewife. And dad would go, well, you gave it a year and maybe that's all. I don't know. You tell me. I don't know. Marge, what do you think? And from the other line, she said, find a way to stay. And she hung up.
Work.
Rest is history.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing that you're the only one that was in. Now your family, you've got a daughter who's a teacher, and you've got both boys are in the performing arts. So one band, they work. But in your family, though, you were like first generation performing arts, right? There wasn't anybody else who was a professional, so to speak, or had gone down that direction, right? There was art.
Not at all. No, my dad would put a lampshade on his head at parties, but that was the extent of the professional performers in our family. Yeah.
You might actually relate with some of our audience on that one. That's pretty
good. He was. I would be 8 years old, and I'd get up to the stairs, and I'd look up, and there would be Dad standing in front of the entire bridge club, telling a 20-minute story, and everybody's laughing their heads off. There was something there.
Well, and I had the good fortune to visit Chelsea on New Year's and come up to and see the Purple Rose and stuff in the town. And it was amazing. I didn't care for the train whistle playing on the stage, but people can see that on my social media if they want to go look at that.
No free lunches.
But what I was surprised by is you were Jeff Daniels in that town, even at high school. You were already like this because you would come back for those summer shows and stuff. And there was already a name in your father's name. The Daniels name already had a thing with the town. So there really is like a real respect in that community for Purple Rose, for who you are. You're always very vocal about you're a Michigander. You're from Michigan. You're from that state. And I think there's something really loyal to that you went back there. You found a calling for yourself and for your family to raise there. And this company that we're going to talk about later with Guy Sanville, it's unbelievable. And it's doing amazing work. And I got to spend, I didn't get to see a full-blown production on stage, but I got to spend a day in rehearsal. And it was like amazing to me. I knew what it was, but just to see what the respect for you and what you brought to that community there was pretty incredible.
I gave them the power to create, and I gave them the power to be better than who they are. The things I had learned from working in movies with, Meryl Streep, Clint Eastwood, Jim Carrey, you name it. I could whatever I learned, I brought and gave to them. And then Guy and Michelle Mountain and others have just taught it much better than I could. So now it's this approach to acting that is a little bit unique that we do at the Purple Rose. We call it, being purple. There's a way to go about what we do. It's like film acting on stage. And so I did it as Atticus basically on a Broadway stage, which is instead of going to the audience with the big performance, you pull them on the stage, you pull them in. And that's hard to do on stage, but we did it anyway.
And the thing too, I think that watching you work, for me, from day one, I remember when I first met you, and to me, it's always important that I have a relationship with all of my company members, but obviously the above the title star, that's important because it's going to be a year and you want that to be a working relationship. I always say I start from a place of respect first. If a friendship develops out of it, that's different. But I remember early on from you, there was the process was important. It was a temple, the space that we were working in. It was so important in that room to create. You were very open. And then I remember in early previews, we were downstairs in a note session. And we were built to the wings of the Schubert. For those of you out there watching, everything was built to the wings. There was no room backstage. That set was massive. It is massive. And there was just no room. And we were in early previews and things were still being figured out. And it's a play. It's not a musical where you have a musical number coming in. So you can move all those set pieces or bring things in from the air, right? And so the cast was getting on this whole tangent in a note session about how loud it was backstage. And we were in week 3 of previews. We've been in rehearsal every day. And I remember you were laying there on the floor in the note session listening, and you spoke up and you said, guys, I want to tell you, this crew is top notch. And they're doing the same show we're doing. The early days of them not knowing a prop's there on Sunday night, we're all going to make mistakes. I went out there last night and I made a mistake, but I'm here to tell you they're doing it. And Jason's giving them the notes. So we need to meet him halfway. And that was it. That was all that's said about it. And it wasn't this is coming down. And I went back and told the assistant stage managers and I told the crew, and everybody was that was really great. Cause it was just that affirming. You could have jumped on the bandwagon of, take them down. but you didn't. And you really did lead the charge in that building, along with the rest of the company. Celia and everybody just really kept each other up for that year that we were there. And we had an amazing time. I mean, it was really incredible. So we'll talk more about Mockingbird later, because I know people are very interested in what the year was like, and how you did a year there. But before we move on to some educator questions, where did music come from in your life? Because I truthfully, honest to God, did not know that about you until I worked with you. And literally on every break, you would be in your script, but if there was a guitar around, which we had one in the room, of course, and you would pick it up or you would bring yours, and you were always just sitting there noodling or playing, or something you wrote. And then something I find out you've had this whole career of writing songs. Where did that music love come from?
I the choirs, and I could sing. And so
Sure.
I knew I was musical. And when I moved to New York in 1976, I'd always wanted, I had tried to play the piano, but basically got stuck in A minor and really didn't. The black keys, what do they do? I didn't want to, it was too much math. And I said, why don't you just throw an acoustic guitar in the back of your car and drive to New York and learn how to play it? You're probably going to need it. And it turned out to be this great friend.
Yeah.
Anyone who plays a musical instrument, they're never going to let you down.
Mm-hmm.
The guitar is always sitting in that corner, whether you're up, whether you're down. It can pull you out of the depths of you just lost a job or you just didn't get a part. It's there when you can celebrate. I mean, it became a best friend, and it still is. And if you treat it like that, it becomes also this avenue, which we can talk about. It's just a way to express your creativity. If you're going to be an actor, that's great, but you're also going to need luck, and you're also going to need breaks. And if you're going to stay at it for decades, you're going to need a lot of luck and a lot of breaks, and you may not get them.
Yeah.
So if you're writing plays as well, if you're filming movies on your iPhone, if you're picking up a guitar, and if you're making sculpture, if you're writing poetry, that's all valid. It's all good. That's kind of what I did. I just was all over the place, and it wasn't like, oh, the acting thing worked, I can dump everything else. It all fed. I'm a better actor because of the guitar.
Yeah.
And the writing lyrics. And I'm a better actor because I've written plays for the Purple Rose. I know what the playwright is going. I know what Sorkin was trying to do, and we weren't there yet because I've written before.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the crew and all of that. These are pros. And so they're pros until they prove otherwise.
Right.
And if you're the lead, you're right. You do have to set the tone, especially when you get into the professional world. And if you're supporting, or you got one or two lines or something, that's just shut up and do your job. But if you want it, you have to outwork everybody else, especially if you're number one. If you're starring in it, or if you're number one on the call sheet and you don't work very hard, they won't either. But if you work really hard, and they're going to sit up straight, and they're certainly going to show up on the days you're working, they're going to be ready. And when it turns out with Newsroom and Mockingbird, you didn't have to tell most everybody to do that.
Yeah.
They could see it. And it's like, follow me, and whoever's with me, we're going this way.
Yeah.
And as long as you do that and set the tone and give the people respect until they don't do that, and then you remind them that's the wrong road. The road we're going on is over here. Are you with us? That's what it, and that comes with decades and all of that. But it is the best people I've ever known in any industry were professional. They were disciplined. They were organized, and they were prepared, and they weren't afraid of hard work. There are a lot of talented people out there, a lot of talented people. You got to outwork every one of them.
Yeah. It's so true. And because those days, what I think people don't understand when they think about that process is we did 6 weeks of previews on Mockingbird. And we're, of course, going to come back to it. But Mockingbird, we did 6 weeks of previews with rehearsal every day. Rehearsal from noon to 5 every day, and then a 7:30 or an 8 o'clock show that night with changes, going in that night. What line was changed, what was in. But even in the rehearsal, then we're going to transition out of this. But I'll never forget the day in the rehearsal room, because nobody had really brought it up. But there was a bunch of 30-somethings in the room that knew your career, but also knew you from a particular movie, because it was around the time that, we had grown up. And I remember we were doing something with the kids, and Bartlett Shear, the director, was talking to Gideon, and he looked to you and he said, do you think it's just too farcical? Is it too much? Am I going too far here? And you literally just in your Jeff way were like, I did Dumb and Dumber, so I don't know that I'm really the one to ask if we're going too far. And I mean, everyone
I don't know where too much is. Yeah.
Out. We fell out because it had never been referenced. And like I remember looking at like all the other people and we were like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then of course you brought it up on 60 Minutes because you said it's part of the patchwork. It's part of the career. Like you're not
listen, I'll stand up for that movie till my day I die, because if you're standing next to Jim Carrey and you're both supposed to be funny, you better find funny. And there's a precision to that. I know it's out there and all of that, but it's like controlled chaos. Yeah. Especially with Jim, because he's a genius at it. Yeah. So yeah, you're riding a comedy bronco with him, and you need everything you've ever learned in anything, drama, comedy, to pull that off. And that was I loved doing it, and it wasn't as simple as it looked.
I love it. We want to remind everybody out there watching that if you have questions, you can post them in the comments. They'll be looking at them and sending them to me if you've got questions for Jeff. We're in for a treat, you guys. This is going to be fun. But I want to move to a couple of educators that we have tonight. This is the new segment we're adding, so let them have a voice. So we're going to go all the way to Zachary Schneider. Come on in, Zach, and talk to us. Hello. So we got now the audience is here. We got applause now. Love it.
Hello.
Tell us where you're from, and then go ahead and give us a question.
Yeah, I'm from Casper, Wyoming, smack dab in the middle of that rectangle.
I-80 near there.
What's that?
I-80 near there.
I-80 is south of us. We have I-25 running north and south.
Yeah, I've I-80'd it. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm in a school of about 1,800 kids and a good core of about 100 in my theater program. And what I wanted to know is what are the skills that you think that a high school educator needs to have when they walk out of school, whether they're going to college or if they're gonna jump right in?
Guy can talk about this more intelligently than I, but I will say a lot of what kids come out of any high school program or college is the performing in front of the mirror. You know, that thing of where you've got it all worked out and this is how I do it, and there's no connection with the other actor. The day I got to New York or Chicago or Seattle, you better know how to tell the truth. And by doing that, you need to be vulnerable. And the simplest way to do that is I call it listening, and it's reacting. And it's get a tennis ball and do the scene with these kids where they're throwing the tennis ball back and forth. Mockingbird was tennis. When Atticus was on stage with Scout, I listened to Celia. Listen to her, because half of your performance is in the other actor. Because what'll happen is they'll get wherever they're going and it'll look like they practiced it in front of their mirror. Mm-hmm. And you got it. And in New York, the first thing you do is take the mirror down and dive into the other person. Because if that leads you to film. If you can listen to the other person and just really react to what they're saying, the camera goes right in. But if you're acting and performing, it pushes the camera away. That's the thing. If you can get them to just even basic telling the truth, you know, I mean, guys got things, but you can, 2 + 2 is what? 4 + 2 is what? 6 + 3 is 9. Just make them think and go back and forth, and then make them do the scene.
Yeah. I mean, half of your performance is the other actor. I've heard you say that. It's like, you're there in the scene.
There because you can't, can't say what he's going to say unless someone says, oh, they say that. Boom, Atticus is over here now. Yeah. You got to catch it. It's pitch and catch.
And what I can practically say about you is from the process we did on that year is when understudies started going on. Mm-hmm. Like I've had those shows where it's like, the person, and they weren't even stars. They were great professionals, but they're like, well, they're not doing exactly this. And I would come to you and your answer was always, I was like, hey, we got so-and-so. And you said, what do you need and what do they need? That was the first thing you'd say. Then you would come in for rehearsal. We would rehearse with them. And what I loved about you was you were so specific. Even in the tech, you knew the lighting stuff. Jennifer Tipton said one time, Jeff knows how to find his light. And can he be in the dark? Or is he okay? And you would ask her, and it was a collaboration there. With those understudies, you were so great about, look, if you're just a little downstage of me, It was that added technical stuff that we were trying to make sure they weren't in the way of the roof coming in or the porch coming this way, and, you know, making sure they got the lines the first time into this show that had been running for 6 months, right? But you were so great. And then in those scenes, you would just do your show, and it wasn't like it was by rote. If they threw you something new, you were right back at them with something new. And it was really amazing to watch. And I heard a lot of them say, like, one of them I remember saying in rehearsal, they're like, if I never go on, I got to do it in rehearsal with Jeff Daniels. And that was all that mattered. I got to play in that testimony with him one time, you know, and that was my grad school.
You got to be ready, Zach. They got to get on top of the lines. Mm-hmm. That's the other thing I would tell them too, is when, you know, this next step, college will be a good, you know, it'll separate the kids that are really have talent and now have to chase craft. College will do that. But man, if you can get them to tell them the truth, to tell the truth and memorize those lines, man, Newsroom was, you know, there was so much dialogue in Newsroom that we would get the script on Thursday and we would shoot an episode in 2 weeks, a Monday through a Friday. So on the Thursday prior, we're still shooting episode 5. I'm working Friday, maybe Saturday, and we start again on the next episode Monday morning, and I've got 15 pages of Sorkin. Yeah. So the only way, and you can watch television, tell the kids, watch some bad television where there's some bad acting. You'll know it because you'll go on the internet and you'll see all the blooper reels because they don't know their lines. Yeah. But you got to know those lines, and you got to know them so well that you can, I call it dancing on top of them. Don't sort of know them cold. Little things like do them a sentence at a time and just go backwards in the speech and then come back forward just to get you so that you can do it second nature, like that favorite song of yours that you never think about, you know every word. That's where you got to get for the audition. Sure. And the only way to do that is rep it. It's the hard work of being an actor. You want to be a star, go to Hollywood and have a pretty face. You're done by 30. But if you want to really go after it and be one of the good ones, do the work. Sure.
Jumping on, you mentioned Newsroom, so I've got to ask this question. My wife and I absolutely loved that show. So that monologue in the pilot season about America and it used to be great. That monologue, I think, comes around on social media quite a bit. What is it like having such a great piece become such a kind of a cultural meme?
Certainly you aren't thinking that when you're doing it. You at the time, you're talking about the Northwestern speech in the first episode of the first season. Yeah. That was written later. It wasn't in the original script. And then we needed to see what McAvoy did. We couldn't just hear about it. So Aaron wrote the scene, wrote the speech. And that's an example of, I pounded that thing. I had it in my head. I went to the grocery store. I was juggling apples and saying anything to get that thing so entrenched so that I could do anything with it and not get lost. And I kind of knew that it was a big deal. HBO was there that day. It was the third day of shooting of 3 years. I mean, we were in the first inning, top of the first inning. And do we have a Will McAvoy or not? And we're going to find out today. And so we hit the speech. I knew I hit it because I was ready. I was prepared. That simple. It was easy. They were all tense around me. They were going, oh my God. Is he going to be, does he need cue cards? Does he need cue cards? Sorkin asked me if I need cue cards. So, but it was, because I was so prepared, it was easy. And then it will be, it's like the Gettysburg speech I have with the guys on the Hill. It's, yes, even the toilet scene in Dumb and Dumber. To have scenes or movies or roles that will outlive you is gold. It's just gold.
I love when you do a sporting reference, like top of the first inning to soccer. I always think it's very relevant and it brings it like back to people that it's relatable. So like the soccer reference, top of the first inning.
That's just
Zach, see, that was how I got it in the dressing room too. Zach, thank you so much for representing one of our teacher questions tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thanks for doing this, Jeff. We appreciate it.
You're welcome, Zach. You are the guy. I had somebody just like you. Look for that one kid and push him or her on.
Will do. Thank you.
Love it. Follow up, Jeff, from those watching at home. They're wondering, and I think I know the answer, but I'm not going to answer it. What newsroom? How much was ad-libbed, or was it all scripted? Were you scripted in all of those tirades and things that felt so off the cuff? Were you scripted, or was it you?
No, we didn't add a line or a word, ever. I didn't even feel the need to. Didn't care. I got Aaron Sorkin writing all the words. Why do I have to write it? I don't have to write it. I got Aaron Sorkin writing it. And the rule is, just like with playwrights and the theater, is don't ad lib. You know, this isn't the movies. It's not a bad movie script that you got to fix on the fly. This was actually written by somebody who knows what they're doing. So why don't you try to execute it to the best of your ability so he or she can hear their play and then they can decide whether that line needs to be there or not. It's okay to discuss. I've always been a big fan of, why don't you just learn what they're doing, what they wrote, and see if you can pull it off. See if you can make it work. Your life gets a lot more simple if that's how you approach it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Let's go to another educator. This is Dr. Beth Gonzalez, who's in Ohio, I believe. But Joe, tell us where you are from and your school.
Hi, I'm from Bowling Green, Ohio, which is in Northwest Ohio. It's a public high school in a small town.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to follow up. I have two questions, but the first question is kind of a follow-up to Zach's, which is this. As you watch young people entering the industry, what do you think that their theater teachers are doing right?
Putting them on stage, period. The more they do that, the better. You've got something too with the iPhone, and you can edit little movies on the iPhone. That we didn't have that. We had 6mm. You know, you had to develop it. That's a great tool. Go make your little movies. Go write your little movies. You know, and let them do movies in town, and learn what the difference is between a close up and a medium shot and the big wide shot. I mean, that's how you learn. That's how Spielberg learned. They grabbed a camera and they went. I'd encourage you to it was Diane didn't do this because we always had scripts, but encourage them to write their own little one-act plays, you know.
Right.
And give them I don't know, it's in Bowling Green, and it all has to happen in the park that's in Bowling Green or the drugstore that's in Bowling Green. It has to happen outside the parking lot, and PG-13 go. And let them write it, and then let them shoot their little movie. It's just getting it. What you guys do so well is that you trigger the imagination in these kids. And the creativity in these kids. They may not end up being actors in movies or Broadway plays, but they might end up being a writer or a painter or something else. Or they might go into business and have the best ideas at the end of the table. You know, that's the greatest thing you can do for them, is trigger that imagination, especially in that quiet kid.
Right.
Yeah, he or she is the one that, what's in there? There's something in there. You want to write a poem? Write a poem about that bird. Go.
Right.
I don't know. And it won't, and they aren't all going to do it, but it's that one or two kids that, as you well know, that are going to go on somewhere, and you recognize it. That's what Diane did in the 6th grade. She saw a kid. She was bored with chorus class, 6th grade. She said, we're going to do skits. She didn't even know it was improv. We're going to do skits. And Jeff, you're going to get up and you're going to give a speech, and you're the mayor, and you're cutting the ribbon for the new fire hall, and your pants are falling down. Go. And I somehow turned it into like 3 minutes of comedy. It was like I had seen enough Dick Van Dyke to know that tug and do a little, now it's a big deal. And now the whole class was cracking up. She went to my parents and said, I don't know what's going on with this kid, but there's something there. And she stayed on me from 6th grade all the way through college, with bringing me back in the summers to put me in there as Harold Hill, and on and on and on. And the reason I went to New York, the reason I was able to succeed in New York, was because of all that experience she gave me from 6th grade all the way through junior in college.
Well, listening to you from the beginning of this is helping me already process my second question, which is harder and rhetorical. So I've been thinking throughout this pandemic how what we are lacking as we interact with our students online, even if they're performing, is that electrifying visceral energy that comes from live performance. And it's possible that our students won't experience that for months or more to come. And I wonder how we can replace that for these kids. How do we find a replacement for that real live experience that is so unique and special to theater?
I don't know that we can for now. However long this lasts, I think when we all do come out of it, even if it's 2 years from now, live performance is going to still be there. I've seen Bruce Springsteen a few times in stadiums and all over the internet, but when Bruce Springsteen played on Broadway, I wanted to be in that room. It's a different deal. I think the performers are going to go screaming back to live venues. I think we'll be fine, but it just may take a long time. Yeah, it may be that the kids don't experience it. You're right. You're right. But when they do, it'll be a thrill again, like it always has been. I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do. I guess I'd focus more on the writing, but that's just me. Read your poem, write something.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't write. Yes, you can. 100 words, go.
That's amazing. I think to challenge them, absolutely. I mean,
we're doing the thing with the online and unplugged for the Purple Rose. I do it every Monday night at 7:30 on their YouTube channel. It's live. That's live. But you're right. It's not the same as going to see Mockingbird on Broadway and being in the room and then the buzz, and you can feel it. You can feel the audience before that curtain would come up on Mockingbird. You could just feel the energy in the building. It was.
Could you feel 1,400 students, Jeff?
Back again.
Could you feel 1,400 students when you did the 4 student matinees? Could you feel that energy?
I felt every one of those students. You betcha.
You did all of them, though. You were there for every student matinee. We're gonna come back to that credit later. Dr. Gonzalez, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great dialogue. Keep doing what you're doing. We appreciate it. Jeff Daniels, I want to say another thing, because of course it's, I'm going to throw in my 2 cents. But another thing I loved about you was I remember a particular day we were in previews, probably like 6 weeks, of course, but week 4. And I remember coming in after rehearsal to check in with you, and you were going to do your thing and take a break and then get ready for the show that night. And you said, "How are you?" And I did my I'm good. And you said, "No." And you literally looked at me and you stopped, the energy in the room shifted, the guitar playing stopped, which was always a big sign that you were serious, because there was no,
I actually care about what I'm saying. Yeah.
there was no tinkling on the guitar. And you said, "No, seriously, how are you?" You said, "I know what you do out there. I know what you're running. We're 4 weeks into this. How are you and the team?" And I said, "I'm good. Thanks for asking." And I just really remember walking out of there you meant it. You really did. You knew what the bigger structure was. And then it made sense to me, because you had your own company for, 37 years, 38 years at this point. You knew that the people around
29, 30.
That you knew all of this. And it really just made the difference to me. But I was you do understand what I do. And it was a give and take, and the team. And it just goes back to that process, because we're always about, it's everybody, because we have people out there tonight that are watching that aren't just performers. They're the kid in the back that just wants to design a set or just wants to light. And you were so all about that. We will come back to props later, because I know that's a point of contention.
Yeah.
We've got one problem, and it's props. But let's take a second and look at, let's transition to the Purple Rose. And we've got some clips from the Purple Rose about, you do a lot of original works. And so we have some of the package from the Purple Rose Theater Company. And let's take a look at why you all do new plays.
New plays are the lifeblood of theater. They're also very risky. Over 60 world premieres, and this year we're doing 3 out of 4 shows. 75% of our season is world premieres. That's nuts.
You're just saying that Justin Timberlake stole everything he knows from Michael Jackson.
That's all I'm saying.
We have a Midwestern voice here, which I think speaks from the heart. It's more gut-centric than brain-centric. That doesn't mean that every show that we do takes place in the Midwest, far from it. But there are stories and issues and things that people in this part of the country relate to in perhaps a different way than they might in New York or Los Angeles. We have an incredible board of directors who would be the envy of any not-for-profit institution, who are very generous with their expertise, and we have an excellent development department. We have an excellent staff across the board. So right now we're kind of firing on all cylinders and turning out, I think, the best work in our history. And we'd like to keep that going. And that's going to take, hard work and some generosity from folks.
Tell me, what exactly are you doing?
When you support a new play, you are supporting a glorious adventure into the unknown. And you're giving us a home to share this experience with you.
My mic
to, shed a little light.
Middle schooler.
Perhaps what it means,
come right back to me. Yep.
Thank you for making all this possible. Thank you for seeing to it that we have an incredible home and for giving us the opportunity to share Jeff's vision and passion with, now it's been over 1 million people. We would not be able to do this work the way we get to do it without your support.
That's incredible. And the work you did there, before we transition and bring Guy in, I do want to comment because we got a question on Facebook from a middle schooler, and it's a valid question, but there's a middle schooler out there, so probably 11 or 12, who wants to know, did your coach ever get mad at you for spending too much time in the theater?
No, because they knew that if I had to choose, I would no longer be playing sports.
Work. There it is. I love that. And also this is why
they didn't ask because they knew I'd drop it. Yeah.
I think that's amazing. And I also want to appreciate, thank you for being 45 minutes in and not commenting on my hands.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I got to meet Guy Sanville in your dressing room. The other thing about professionals out there, everybody, is that if they're a real pro, they will say hello to everybody in the building. They will introduce people to people. And it didn't matter who was in Jeff's dressing room. If I walked in for any reason, he would introduce you who he was talking to. And I remember the particular day that I met Guy, and Guy and I just launched into just talking all things. And you did your very Jeff thing, laughed and said, I knew this was going to be a combination that would work or whatever. And we just launched into talking and rhetoric. And when I came out to Chelsea and he said, come spend the day with us. And they were rehearsing road signs, which I want to talk about because you had a relationship with Lanford Wilson and it was kind of a love letter to him. And the show was so cool. And I got to see a draft of it. And then I got there and I said, can I go to rehearsal? And Guy was like, yeah. And Guy said, I've rented a bus because the whole show took place on a bus. And he said, I've rented a bus and we're going to rehearse the show on a bus. We're going to drive and have lunch and then come back, but we're going to rehearse the show on a bus. And I thought, this is freaking cool. And it was so cool to be a part of that process. So, and I know you love him. So I really, when we talked, the very first thing you said was get Guy. He can talk a lot more intelligently about this thing than I can. So please welcome on the Artistic of Purple Rose, Guy Sanville. Yes. Hi, Guy. Uh-oh, Guy, what's going on? Hold on, Guy. Hold on, you're muted. You got to mute your mic, Guy. It's okay. You got to do it on your end.
Master of technology, I'm not.
My God.
And Jeff Daniels is looking over your shoulder too, Guy. Look at that right there. He's looking right back at us. There he is.
Oh my God.
It's always looking over my shoulder.
Guy Sanville, tell me about what was it like when you got the call? Because you've been there a long time, yeah?
Yeah. I started there as an actor in 92. I was, God, I don't know, 38 or something. And I was thinking about getting out of the business. And I walked into this place. A friend of mine called me up. I was doing billing and collections for a hospital, which is, suitable justice for treason. It's terrible. And this guy directing a show called me up and said, they're auditioning a new play by Jeff Daniels down in his theater. You should get your tail down there and audition. And it was a rainy March. I called up. I got the last audition slot. I went down. I walked into that place. And I will tell you, I had a feeling that I'll never forget. I knew my life would never be the same. I walked in. I did a monologue. The director said, you're good. If there's anything you're right for, we'll call you back. I think you're a little old for this part, but you never know. Monday, I got a call back. Following Saturday, I came. And it was a new play that Jeff had written. It was a comedy. I got there early, learned my lines. I walked in, and there's Jeff Daniels. Now, the last time I had seen Jeff Daniels, he was on Broadway in the 5th of July with Richard Thomas. I was living there at the time. So I was a little intimidated. I thought, I'm just going to put that away. And the show he had written for a great actor in Detroit named Wayne David Parker. And I had known him from another show that my wife had worked on earlier. And we sort of hit it off, and he's about half my size. So when I got in there, I knew my lines. I just picked him up under the arms and sort of held him up for the entire audition because I was mad at him in the scene. And the story goes, I walked out, and Jeff said, that's the guy. And the director said he's supposed to be a 55-year-old Polish guy. And Jeff said, not anymore. He's a 38-year-old Italian, and his name is Ed Benetti. And, got the call, and that was a great day. So, and then they made me their first associate artist. I turned down leading roles at other professional theaters to understudy at the Purple Rose for very little money at the time, because I knew that I always swore if I found a place, a creative home, that I would stay as long as they'd have me. And I knew I'd found that place when we did Tropical Pickle. And then they let me direct, and then they made me their first associate artist. And then this job opened up, and I got a call in late April from Jeff, and said, I want you to come down to the house. Got to have a little chat. Now, coming to the house is either a great thing or or something else.
Yeah.
Oh, it's always great. And he asked, I thought he wanted to know, who I thought he should hire or weigh in on what that should be or something like that. And he'd been thinking about it and did his due diligence and offered me the job. And it's been my life's work. It's the best job in America. And I'm doing work with people that I respect and admire, and all trying to accomplish the same thing. And I would pay them to let me do it. I shouldn't say that, but
yeah,
it's really a unique thing, Jason. It's, so even with Mockingbird, you come into it and there are, say, 12 different acting styles, 12 different performing arts schools, 12 different styles. And I gotta wrangle them all to go, we're going to do it this way. And to the degree you can get everybody to kind of follow you, great. You go to the Purple Rose, and with what Guy's been able to kind of set as here's how we do it, it's like the football team all working from the same playbook.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a true company of actors, when they're all playing from the same playbook, and it all, you're not competing or fighting with each other. And Guys and company have done an incredible job of molding that into one direction. It's just been great.
I remember when I was there, I came back to the house after that rehearsal, and you had a 2-show day because you were doing the on stage and unplugged show because it was New Year's, and you were doing that for Purple Rose, which is like, you do it yearly, and it's the big fundraiser, and Jeff's on stage, and it's amazing. And you had a 2-show day, and you came back, and we sat down at the table, and you and I were just chatting, and you said, how was rehearsal or whatever? And I said, I get it. I get why they've drank the Kool-Aid of Guy Sanville. I get it. I literally walked out of that rehearsal being like, when I met him in the dressing room, I was a fan. And I said to you, I was like, I want to come to Purple Rose. And you're like, I don't think we can afford you. And I was like, it's not about that. And hearing Guy say that too, I'm always like, yes, we all it all wants to be about the paycheck sometimes. Sure, we've got to pay our bills. But there is also, if you're respected, if you feel collaborative, hence why Projects with Jason. You know what I mean? I get these people that will answer these calls and do it voluntarily because they believe in the mission. They're treated right. And you guys are doing it there. And I walked away from that being like, I signed up for the First Church of Guy Sanville. Like, if he tells me to go, I'm going to go. Like,
it's a church of the Purple Rose, and we all work in, Jeff is, knowing and getting to work with him as much as I have. I've been privileged to direct most of his new plays. Has every time this discussion you guys have had is a master class.
Mm.
I get all that. I'm writing a damn book about it. Okay. This is the tile of Jeff Daniels and the Circle Repertory Company.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to that guy. Those teachers were great. We kind of look at this whole thing as a team sport. We really do. The sports metaphor is very strong. Acting is a contact sport, and we make a certain thing a certain way. I mean, I remember sitting in a room for the first time with Jeff Daniels and Lanford Wilson, and Lanford, he was talking about him and Jeff. He goes, "Well, we like actors who, when they're acting, you can't tell they're acting."
Yes.
And one of the first mandates I got from Jeff when I got this gig was it's the policy of the theater that we develop our own talent. So we do a certain thing a certain way, but it all involves making it about the other person, telling the truth. And the hardest thing that I have to do as an educator or a director is that's not the hardest thing, but we spend a lot of our time here getting people out of their own way. Young people especially understanding that you're enough. You are more interesting than your idea of the character. We don't cast characters here. We cast people, and the fact that the audience is going to believe they are who the play says they are.
Yeah.
And just, you don't have to do all that stuff. You just have to listen and breathe and tell the truth. And we believe that, if you want a professional actor to do it on stage, then you need to practice it.
Yeah.
Julie Andrews, who said, amateurs practice till they get it right. Professionals practice till they can't practice anymore.
Mm.
And for me, it's rehearsal. That's my favorite thing. I love rehearsal. I could rehearse the same play for a year and not get bored. I really, really enjoy it. And getting to do new work with living, breathing writers, that's incredible. That's as good as it gets. And that's kind of what we're tooled for at the Purple Rose, from Super.
Yeah, it was amazing. I do want to ask both of you, and a lot of people don't have the answer to this question, but staring what we're staring in the face, and where were we supposed to be in the Purple Rose season right now? Because Road Signs got stopped early, right?
We were supposed to be doing a new play by Carrie Krim, a beautiful, heartfelt comedy called Paint Night, about 6 women who, have you heard of these Paint Night parties where people go to the gallery and drink and paint? And what could possibly go wrong, right? We were 2 weeks into rehearsal, and it was just beautiful. We had 6 incredible actors, and Carrie is just the real deal. She's a wonderful playwright. When you direct new plays, in the theater anyway, director works for the playwright and the actors, and working with the people that we get to work with here, it's just pretty special.
So how do we just are open to what the next steps are, right? Purple Rose isn't going anywhere. There's a lot. Broadway's going to come back, but it's how do we embrace this unknown, so to speak?
Well, a day at a time, I think. I mean, right now information is fluid, and there are many sources to wade through. So we're just trying to use our best judgment and to figure out what life is going to be like when we do get back. We're taking care of everybody, and we're working. And who knows what it's going to look like if and when we do get back. We were talking earlier. I do believe that the small professional theaters and regional theaters in the country will be, the first to go, the first to get up and figure out something. I've been paying a lot of attention to the restaurant business lately, and they face some of the same issues that we do.
Yep.
And how close can we put people? How many people can we get in there safely? And it's we're working with the union and everybody else to try to figure out what that's going to look like when we get back. But it's a day at a time. It's communication, and it's trying to and listen to the science.
Yeah.
To what we have some pretty good leadership here in the state, I think, and so we're listening.
Yeah, I've always said too, and I've said it over the weeks of this, that it's like no one responds to crisis better than the entertainment community. like in terms of how we answer and how we support each other and how we find ways to do this. And it's like you and I got on Guy right at the top and you said, I was excited to have something to do tonight. And it was like last night we talked about it, that it was like there was a reason to rehearse this week, you know, and that's, I think that it's that even if it is this connection for now, like it's weird because I felt yesterday, I was like, oh, I saw Jeff and Kathleen last night. I was like, no, you didn't. You talked to them on this, but there was still that connection. I do think we're slowing down a little bit. We're having more conversations with each other. We're not just picking up the phone. So I do think we've learned something from this. And like Jeff said earlier, which was like, you know, that battle cry that we will come back. People are going to want to get back on those stages. They're going to want to get back and have that human experience. Nothing against TV and film, but there's nothing like 1,400 people coming together in the Schubert Theater, you know, or 125 at the Purple Rose, you know, to have that living, breathing experience together where you hear everybody take that same breath.
Yeah, people, exactly. I mean, the science tells us that people's hearts become synchronized in a live theater setting.
Yeah.
At Purple Rose, you know, we seat 168 people.
Yeah.
We get 160 people in there breathing together and listening. I think people have a primal need at the cellular level to sit in a dark room with strangers and share stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a very ancient art form. And I believe we will be back. And when we get back, you know, whatever that looks like, people will come. We have a lot of people out there who care very deeply about us. And we're looking forward to that day. But we're going to do things right. We're going to do things safe. And we'll do our best with whatever we have to work with.
And I also love, from my standpoint, I always say that I surround myself with people that are smarter than me. And I'm not speaking for Jeff, but to watch Jeff just sit there so relaxed. And it's like, you know, when he told me, he said, I want Guy on the show. Guy can speak to this so much better than I can. And it's like, there's such a trust and a love. And I think it's just amazing. Can we get to some student performances?
That would be great.
I think we're going to do some student performances. Jeff, we hope you'll stick around. I know you're very busy. But
yeah, I'm real busy. Yeah, I'll stick around. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Let's do some student performances. So this is your standby, you guys, for your student performances. I did not prep for this one, so that's what you all are seeing me do right now, is I did not get ready for this intro, so I'm doing it on the fly, and I'm just going to call attention to it. This is from a play called She Kills Monsters. That's like hit, and it just got announced that it's in a virtual version, is now being adapted for Zoom for schools to do. The two performers we have tonight are really, really amazing. Like, we had a great dialogue today, and Guy is so excited he's gonna get to talk to them. And so we have two performances, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk to Guy and the students and Jeff. And this is what it's all about. This is so much fun and so motivating, even to me. So this is a young lady all the way in Washington State, who is at a school that focuses on the arts. She's so talented. I knew her teacher. And she's going to be performing for you from She Kills Monsters, a monologue. It's set in 1995, and Agnes, a teenage girl who recently lost her younger sister in a car crash, when she discovers that she was super advanced and well-known D&D player, she decides the game in order to get to know her sister better. Side note about this young lady did not play the role that she's doing the monologue from when they did the production. She learned this monologue just for tonight. So here she is, all the way from Washington. This is Esther Gleeman with She Kills Monsters.
My memories. Right. Do you want to know what my memories of Tilly are? They're of this nerdy little girl who I didn't talk to, who I ignored, who I didn't understand because, well, she didn't live in the same world as I did. Her world had evil jello molds and lesbian demon queens, and mine had Dave Matthews and cute haircuts. I didn't get her. You know, I assumed one day I would, that she'd grow out of all this, that we'd be able to sit around and talk about normal things like clothes and TV shows and boys. And as it turns out, no one even knows if she was into boys or not. I didn't know her, Vera. I remember her as a baby, as a little toddler that I loved picking up and holding. But I don't remember her as a teenager at all. And now Now I'm never going to get the chance to know her as an adult. So all I have left is this stupid game with a stupid made-up adventure about killing some stupid made-up dragon. And it all just infinitely sucks.
Yes, work. So good. And then, of course, I threw at you guys right before the show, like, hey, we're not going to actually talk right after you do it. You're going to do 2 monologues, then come back and talk. But I'm going to do a transition with you. That was amazing. You go to West Sound Academy in Washington, right?
Correct.
You're a sophomore. I want to point that out again. You're a sophomore. That's amazing. You said you've been performing since you were like 4 when you and I talked. And we'll tell him when he comes back, but we didn't know this. You actually saw To Kill a Mockingbird in previews.
I did, yeah.
Yeah, like literally on a whim, right? You guys were just like, you happened to get tickets and went in, and like you were saying it changed your life. So we'll talk about that later. I love your musical theater, and you can nail a monologue like that, and you learned it. So stick around. We're going to bring you back with Guy and Jeff in a minute, all right?
Yeah.
Thank you, Esther. All right, amazing, right? I didn't know that show. It's apparently very popular. Up next, all the way in Kentucky, Owensboro High School. Brody Ray Ogle, he's just graduated, or he's a senior. He's graduating right now. It's this senior question mark. They're done, but you know, what's the end? This is from Annie Baker's John, and he's playing Elias, a young man who can't get through to his girlfriend after a pretty rough incident. So all the way in Kentucky, this is Brody Ray Ogle.
I'm not saying I'm such a great person, but I don't lie. I don't bring myself to that point of lying. I mean, if I don't tell Jenny the truth, I feel like I'm going crazy. I don't understand how people decide to stay or leave. I mean, I love her. No, I do. I don't know the difference between loving someone and being in love with someone. Maybe I've never loved anyone. I don't know. This always happens to me, you know? It's every girl that I have ever dated. After like a month, I start to look at them as like, I see them as this like an insect. You know, like those big green things that land on your screen door at night, and they stare at you. They try to claw their way in. But with Jenny, it didn't happen at first. And you know, I was excited. I was like, it's over, finally. And then it happened. We'd been dating for, I don't know, a year. Which that right there, that was an improvement for me. And it's not like I see her as an insect all the time. Like I don't look at her and see this big insect face. I just sometimes.
Yes. So great. And the thing I want to throw out before I bring everybody back in is that you told me earlier that like it just showed up, theater just showed up on your schedule your freshman year.
Yeah.
You're the counselor, and you were like, I don't want to do this, and they wouldn't change it, and so you ended up in the class.
Yep.
Now you're going to major in it in school.
Yeah.
And Jeff is out. You knew Jeff's work. You don't want to do musicals. You're very much plays.
Yeah.
And so I just love that story that you definitely found the passion. So let's bring back Guy Sanville, Esther, and Jeff, and let's talk for a minute, because that's what this is all about.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi.
Go, Guy.
Okay. Well, thank you. I watched, Jason sent me videos of you guys doing these speeches. So I watched them, and I said to him, thank God they're good. Listen, I wanted to talk to you both together because I saw the video. You are good. I can tell that you care very deeply about this because I can tell you put in the work. One of the things that, as I said earlier, one of the challenges we face is convincing people that you are enough. I saw each of you in your work. You were telling me the truth. You were seeing what you were talking about. It was really, really, let me put it to you this way. If you came into our theater and you did those speeches, the way you did them, you would get a call back. So take what you will from that. I'm not going to sit here and coach you up other than to tell you, keep doing exactly what you're doing. Some of the biggest naysayers in your lives will be people who love you the most. If you can be happy doing anything else, great. But you both have incredible potential. You both could work. And you're young, you have a lot to learn, read, be crazy about reading and take it seriously. Practice. I can tell that you're not, I can tell if somebody has learned, when they come down and audition for us, I can tell if they've learned their monologue in the car on the drive over. It is about 99% hard work and about 1% talent. You guys both have the talent. And by talent, I mean you are able to express who you are, your humanity, and all that entails in your work. That's what talent is. It's expressing your humanity in an abstract form. And you both can do that at, frankly, a very young age. That's wild. And that's great. And I really enjoyed watching your work tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, a couple things. What the girl? What yours is your name again? I'm sorry.
Esther?
Esther. Yeah, just great. I believe every second of it, and don't come off that. You're telling the truth. I believed you were talking to me, even though you're talking to a camera, which is even harder. I believed I could see you thinking your way through it, which is what the camera will see. The camera can see you thinking. So you might want to be thinking, and you were. Don't hang on to, please hang on to that. You're going to, and Brody, similar. Yours looked a little more practiced, which is perfectly fine. You're kind of jumping into theater here. If I were, with Guy, I'd go work the kid up. I'd go do it angry now. Go. And you don't have time to think about it. Now you've got to do that whole monologue, really upset and really angry. It may not work. It may not be what it's for. Great. Now do it really sad. And just to see if we can move you around, get you out of your comfort zone, because you obviously can do it. You're doing your choices, which is great. That's the other thing too. And Guy's right. When you go into an audition, they're not looking for perfect. They're looking for 2 or 3 moments, and you guys both delivered that. Make a couple of real strong choices about what you think the character wants, and then go get it. That's all you have to do in an audition. Don't get too many thoughts in there. Just go, I want this from this other character. That's all drama is. It's one character wanting one thing, the other character wanting the other, and it's an obstacle. It's a conflict. If they both got along, we wouldn't have a play. There'd be no conflict. So you want something in that scene. What is that? Tape whatever that is to the inside of your forehead and go. That's what I do. That's all I do. I boiled it down to that. You got to go learn the technique and the craft, and that's great. But hang on to that thing where you're telling the other character what you want. Because if you tell the other character what you want and push that way, they're going to push back, and you're going to have something to push against. You can't push against you acting in front of a mirror. You can't do it. And you both showed great potential to be able to connect with the other actor. And when you do that, the audience gets pulled in.
Yeah.
And they don't know why it happened, but oh my God, what a scene that was. Those two people, it's because they're like looking through a window at it. And it's so real and it's so honest and it's so back and forth. Hang on to that telling the truth thing.
Yeah.
And you both had it, especially Esther. Really be. And Brody, you're fine. You're absolutely great. I don't mean to run you. But yeah, I would get you out of your comfort zone real fast. And then I'm sure you could do it all these different ways. And then you're going to walk out of there going, oh my God, now I know what it means to be an actor, which is do it 5 different ways and then walk away.
Yeah. That's amazing. Esther and Brody, thank you for being brave doing this. I know you're soaking it all up. And as I tell you guys in rehearsals, it's like, we don't work with the people that we're not interested in. So if we're not talking to you, it'd be like, good job, and you'd move on. So I give you guys total props for even attempting this tonight.
2 really good ones. 2 really good ones.
Really great. And I said, because the first one we did was like Shakespeare stuff. And so I at least understood what was going on this week. I was like, cool.
I'm glad I'm not on that show. Yeah.
Right. Brody, Esther, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Great work.
Guy Sanville, we are also going to be talking to you because I'm getting a lot of feedback from the Project with Jason team during this show that we need you to come on and visit us more often. So maybe we'll be talking and maybe you can come coach some of these performers in the future as our professional. I'm making this offer right now on the show, so you have to say yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, we'll totally do it. Thank you, guys, Sanville. I adore you. You know that. Your words tonight. I love how much you care about the company that you get to work for and the passion you bring to actors and everything you do, and for being here tonight. So thank you, Guy.
Thank you, Jason. It's been wonderful.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you soon. Jeff Daniels, you're sticking around for a minute. This is not where you can leave. You asked if you could leave after this, but we are going to go and look at a town hall. I got to go with you. We went to town hall on a 2-show day in New York, and you were asked to go do Live from Here, which your music side, you're a fan of the show to begin with. So you were all about it. And you went and you performed what we call the summation, sort of Atticus's final speech in To Kill a Mockingbird that was Aaron's pen on Harper Lee's, and it was Atticus's final. I think Scout's lead in line is Atticus had practiced his speech for weeks and weeks. And I saw in that moment, he threw it all out. And then he just kind of goes off the cuff. And this was, I thought, was a great way to give everybody an idea of what that moment in Act 2 was. And I think what was great about that show was those courtroom scenes, the entire cast was on stage every night. And they would come off. And what was so great about that company and the collaboration was they would come off and they'd be like, wow, Jeff really tried something different tonight. Or, oh, Jeff did that. Or Jeff. It was such a supportive group, which is what this industry is supposed to be, that everybody started the show together. Everybody was down there at places, and talking and checking in. And we were all together for a year, so I wasn't there a full year. And I know if I don't say it,
you left early.
It's all right. We'll get to that when we come back. And then we're going to talk about Mockingbird before we go. But let's take a look at Jeff Daniels as Atticus Finch in a Live from Here performance at Town Hall in New York.
When I was a boy, my father gave me one of those air rifles, an air rifle. He said I'd rather shoot at tin cans in the backyard, but then he knew one day the temptation would become too great and I'd want to shoot at birds. Said I could shoot all the blue jays I want, probably knowing I'd never be able to hit one, but to always remember it was a sin to kill a mockingbird. A sin. A crime against God. Only time I ever heard him use that word, asked him why, and he said it was because they were innocent. And I became a lawyer. We practiced it, Tom and I practiced for that question over and over. State's case, right. Not only has the state not produced any evidence, I mean not one square inch, Tom Robinson committed the crime of which he's accused. The state hasn't produced any credible evidence that the crime of which Tom Robinson's accused was committed at all. The defendant isn't guilty, but someone in this courtroom is. Now, we practiced it for 6 weeks. I have nothing but pity in my heart for the chief witness for the state. But my pity does not extend as far as letting her send. Mayella Ewell is a victim of poverty and ignorance, and her father. Tomorrow you can pity her, but not today. Mel Ewell was beaten by someone who led exclusively with his left hand. When Bob Ewell committed a felony by falsely swearing out a warrant against Tom Robinson, he put his signature to that lie with his left hand. Tom Robinson sits before you, having been mocked by the prosecutor for taking the oath by holding his left hand on the Bible with the only working hand he possesses, his right hand. Now, we practiced for that question for 6 weeks, 5 hours a day. I asked it the first time I met him. I said, Tom, they are going to ask you why you were doing chores for free for Mel Ewell. Tom said, I felt sorry for her. I said, no, can't say that. Say it looked like she could use a hand. Now, he didn't need an explanation. He knew that a Negro man can't feel sorry for a white woman, even if he sees that she's taking care of a house and 7 children with no help from her drunk and abusive father, that a simple act of compassion would be seen by this jury as an insult. He feels sorry for us. He doesn't know his place. He's forgotten who he is. So we practiced every day. I'd bait him, I'd antagonize him, I treated him with disrespect and contempt. And he never broke. So why did he break today? Well, the answer is he didn't. You saw him. You heard him. That wasn't a slip of the tongue. Tom Robinson said exactly what he meant. In fact, he said it twice, because he forgot his place, because he forgot who he was, what he was. No. Because he remembered. A man will have his dignity. A sin, a crime against God, can't go on like this. We have to heal this wound, or we will never stop bleeding. We have to make good this crime. We have to show Tom Robinson justice in this courtroom. Or we can start gathering the animals 2 by 2, because we'll be shown God's justice in a hurry. Can't go on like this. We know that. So let's hasten the change. Let's hasten the end to the beginning. Let's do it right now in Macomb. Let's begin by restoring this man to his family. Let's begin with justice. You know what happened on November 21st. You know it. Don't do this. Let him go home. In the name of God, just let him go home.
So before we leave for the evening, everybody wants to know.
That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. that was less painful than I thought. No, it's, and you know, the beauty of that is it's Harper Lee, but it's Aaron Sorkin. Yeah, I tell people, you know, working with Aaron on Newsroom and Steve Jobs and Mockingbird, you're riding Secretariat. You are riding a great, it's just like, oh, it's just, you're riding. It's so much fun. So much fun.
When you've got someone like Aaron Sorkin writing, like Newsroom, I mean, Atticus Finch was sort of a character there, but you were known to say in interviews, which you weren't wrong, because you always get the whole like, oh, Atticus Finch. And I remember one of the lines I loved hearing you say was like, you do know Gregory Peck is dead, right?
Right.
He wasn't available. Like that was one of the first, like, you're like, you do know he's not available, right?
Yeah, he was unavailable, so he came to me.
But when you've got somebody like Sorkin writing for you, and it's coming out of your mouth, and then it starts to feel like do you feel like you learned something about yourself? Does Sorkin obviously start to tailor it to, I mean, I heard him and Scott Rudin say like they heard you as Atticus. Like they knew it. So do you learn something about you in those process too?
Yeah, oh, certainly with a thing like taking on Atticus Finch with Gregory Peck, you know, like Mount Rushmore staring at you, and the success of the book and the love for the book. You know that if you can come through that, you're going to come through better. Mm-hmm. Whether it's handling pressure or the work needed to rise up to something like that. It's a big moment. It was the role of a lifetime. So can you do it?
Yeah.
It's the World Series Game 7, and that's what it was. And it's coming when the critics come in. So you've got over a year to get ready for it, and we took the time to do that. So you do learn something about yourself. I've always, especially with Esther and Brody earlier, the kids, the fun of acting is becoming someone else. It's just an adult version of make believe or let's pretend. That's all it is. It's all it is. And if you can keep it there, then you can kind of play the game of, you do think like Atticus Finch. I mean, you're always remembering your lines and I got to be over here for that. And but the more you do it, you kind of lose yourself and you kind of let him take you, and you think like him, and now you're standing like him, and now you sound like him. That was interesting to hear it because I've never seen it, and even hearing it that's how the accent sounded. That wasn't bad. That wasn't bad. In my head, it doesn't sound like that way at all. So you become someone else. As I tell actors at the Purple Rose, that's where the fun is.
Yeah.
That's where the fun is. It's using that imagination that you have, whether it's an actor, writer, whatever, but that, turn it loose. And then as an actor, you get to suddenly become Atticus Finch or Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain in Gettysburg, or even Harry Dunn in Dumb and Dumber. The fun of playing someone with a single-digit IQ. I mean, just as an actor, for the actors out there, how do you do Harry Dunn? Do you act dumb? No. I mean, I tried that in some early, and Jim's looking at me going, I think we hired the wrong guy. And I just didn't have that simple key thought that was the key thought to every character. It's a word, it's a phrase, it's something. And with Harry, he has an IQ of 8, not 7, not 9, 8. And for whatever reason, that became, that. And then I just knew what that was. And no matter what I did, as long as I think I have an IQ of 8, then everything became 8. It's that becoming someone else. And the same thing with Atticus. You watch yourself morph into someone else, and that's where the fun is.
Yeah. Frank Johnson, was that who you were listening a lot to? Because I remember you were listening.
Yeah.
It was, right? Because I remember and not like it's that whole method, like what we hear about, but you would, on breaks and stuff, you were always sort of in the rehearsal room trying to talk in the accent.
I mean, I started that pretty early. I kind of let everybody know we're doing accents when I dropped in the second workshop, the last reading. I just, all of a sudden, there was an Alabama accent. I just dropped that on the table. Have a good summer. I remember Dakin Matthews, the judge, looking over at me going, but it was Frank Johnson was a federal judge in Alabama, and he could have been what Atticus became. Mm-hmm. He was that revered in Alabama as a very fair, brilliant judge. And he had an accent that I was working on. And then Kate Wilson, who was the dialect coach, came in, and she did a more specific accent, which was the one we went with.
Yeah. I've never asked you this. I mean, I assumed I knew the answer, but was it fun that you're in the show? If you had to do it all over again, I guess same thing. If the offer came again, you would say yes, right? Look, I'm leading you to the answer, but was it fun?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It was thrilling. It was a burden. It was the responsibility that comes with being in a hit on Broadway and starring in it is a lot. And it's not that you have to live up to the 5-star reviews you got 5 months ago. You can't be tired of it. You're in month 8, and there are people that paid far too much money for a Broadway play who are there. They flew in from all over the world, certainly the country, and they heard about you and they want to see you. So you got to give it everything you got on Thursday night, August 10th. And you've been in it 9 months.
Yeah.
And you got 3 understudies.
Yeah.
You learn about what it takes to carry a show for a year. And I would never trade that for anything. It's a great test of character, patience, stamina. It's not for the meek. I know a lot of film people who have never done stage, and it's good to be an actor who can do both.
Yes.
I just, you know, the ones that I looked up to, you know, get ready to Google, Henry Fonda, Lee J. Cobb. Oh my God. All the Philip Bosco. I mean, these New York actors I knew a lot of them at Circle Rep, and just pure stage people who knew how to be on a stage and hold an audience and deliver a speech because they understand the structure of the speech from a story structure standpoint, which is different than Hollywood. Hollywood is look at me, look at me, look at me. And not always, but that's where you go to become a star. Stars don't last very long. Fame is fleeting. It's all true. Actors are what last. And if you can be, and I've always looked to guys like Henry Fonda and Jimmy Stewart and those guys that lasted decades. Actors can last decades. Stars are, you know, if you're lucky, you get a hit or two in your career. But man, you know, your career's over at 35 because that you peaked. Right. For me to be able to be an actor and kind of move it around and do television, do stage, do even the music end is on a stage, you know, film, TV, all that stuff, move it around. And then get a phone call that they want you to be Atticus Finch and you've been in the business for 40 years. And it's now you're getting the role of a lifetime. It's hard. You can't write that.
Right. And you've said that if you had that moment with yourself early on, you'd say, hold on, it's going to happen. And you might want to pick up a copy of Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. I'm just.
Yeah, if I could talk to my 21-year-old self, I'd go, you might want to throw a copy of To Kill a Mockingbird in the back of the car. You're going to need it. Take your time. You don't have to read it right away, but later on, down the road.
Oh, yeah. I want to close with, and I didn't tell you I was going to throw you this one, but I have so many incredible memories of that year with you. And you're now a dear friend and just somebody I respect so much. But there's always those humbling moments, right, where they make you think, oh, I just had an amazing show tonight. And you come off and, you know, your dresser, Julian, and I are there. And we're like, Jimmy Fallon, Glenn Close is here. Like, everybody's here tonight. And this radio guy that you knew that you were going to meet anyway.
It was, yes.
Yeah, right, from Detroit. So he comes back. And I think there was, and also Harper Peck, the grandson of Gregory.
The grandson of Harper Peck is in the house tonight. He wants to say a word to you.
So he comes in, and your dressing room's not huge. It was very nice, but it's, you know, with all these people in there, and it was like personality. It was literally like one of those variety shows where every time the door opened, somebody else walked through, right? And so I'm literally standing there just witnessing this happen, and you're talking, and you're being Jeff, and it's great, and people are saying hello. And then, as God is my judge, Jimmy Fallon gets asked to take a photo with the radio DJ, and you get asked to take the photo.
Yes.
Like, not be in the photo. And it was, oh, Jeff, could you get my picture?
Please take a photo of me and Jimmy Fallon. Yes.
And then Glenn
Close, happy to do so. Yeah.
And Glenn Close comes in.
Yes.
And she then got added to his photo, which you took.
I think I did, yes.
And then, being the Jeff that I know that doesn't have this bone in his body, you turned to me and said, and no one has said what I just did on stage for the last 3 hours.
Not even a word. Not a word about it. No, that's not true. I mean, Glenn couldn't have been nicer, and Paul was great. Jimmy, he's selfies, and, you know, so it was, yeah, it was, it was good of Harper Peck to stop by. It was nice of him to, he was in the neighborhood, nice of him to stop by. Yeah.
Jeff Daniels, we want to remind everybody that if you're watching right now or you're watching soon, you've got 2 more Monday nights live from your house or live from the studio, I would say, on online and unplugged, which we're calling it now, right?
Online unplugged, 7:30 Eastern, the Purple Rose Theater Company YouTube channel, raising money for the Purple Rose.
It's amazing, and you're amazing in that show, and they can learn a whole new side of you. Your songs are so much fun. We learn a little bit about you and Kathleen too, truthfully. RV is one of my favorite stories ever. And when I was there and got to hear it live, and I'm sitting with her and her mom and like the family in the back, and they're like, this is all true. And
it's
then
a true story. It's a song about we rented a recreational vehicle and I left my wife at a truck stop. True story.
So please tune in. Check out the Purple Rose. You guys are doing amazing work there. I can't thank you and Guy enough. I adore you for being here tonight. The audience adores you. Thanks for doing this. Truthful.
Thanks, Jason. Good to see you.
I really appreciate it. Jeff Daniels, everybody. That's it, everybody. What an amazing night. Thank you for joining us. Go to projectswithjason.com. Follow us on all social media. Take that moment right now and hit subscribe. Ring the little bell so you know what's going on. Check us out. We've got guest booked for like the next 6 weeks. We're going to be making a lot of announcements over the next coming weeks of what's going on. So come check us out. And check these companies out that we're working with. If you're watching live, happy Mother's Day to everybody out there. We've got a lot of mothers on the Project with Jason team. I adore you all. Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS has an amazing Mother's Day thing tomorrow. I think it's 3 o'clock Eastern time. Check it out. A lot of Broadway people. We've got to support each other, even if it's just showing up. You got $1, throw it in the bucket. That's what we do. If not, just show up, put some comments in there. Love to everybody. Remember, in the end, kindness only matters, and good night. Hey, it's Jason. If you like what you saw, take a second and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell and follow us on all social media. Thanks for watching.